Hello. This is a picture of me giving my buddy Tristan a haircut. Don't let the serious face fool you. Our conversation was consistent of cats, the iPhone 8, and Halloween Horror Nights. Tristan provides unparalleled perspective on these matters. If you were to ask me, what's the best part of my job, I'd show you this picture and tell you about these beautiful people, my second family, and about our loyal guests who become our family's friends. The best part of this industry is definitely the people in it. Throughout the expanse of time, and from the moment which mankind became aware of themselves, we developed a fascination with our appearance and the expression of ourselves through our appearance. This presentation is the history of that fascination, starting with the earliest portrait of the human face. The Venus of Blasphemy is an Ice Age era sculpture which depicts a prehistoric woman who assumingly is wearing braids. How do we know it's Ice Age era? Because it's made from the ivory of a woolly mammoth. Religious prophets, spiritual gurus, and teachers like Lord Shiva, Samson, Egyptian pharaohs, and Nazarites were commonly known for wearing long, matted locks of hair. These locks signified dread or fear and humility, respect for God. Hence the name, dreadlocks. Shaving your face didn't exist until ancient Greece, until the warriors of Alexander the Great began shaving their beards to avoid being pulled down face first in battle. A foreign practice at the time, and since Dollar Shave Club wasn't around, they opted for stones, clamshells, and even knives. Ouch. In the Dark Ages, red hair was usually associated with witchcraft. Even earlier than that, however, in ancient Rome, it was only noble women who could tint their hair red, and any middle-class women with red hair were put to death. And since professional hair color wasn't around until 1907, they generally used henna, chamomile, berries, and even insects to dye their hair. Most rulers and monarchs became trendsetters in their era, simply by their power and status in society. Take King Francis I, for example, who accidentally burned his own hair with a torch, and in doing so, had all of his loyal subjects and followers also cut their hair short. Or take King Louis XIV, who began to lose his hair at an early age. And since it'd be an embarrassment to have a bald ballet dancing French king, he sported these elaborate powdered wigs, which became a staple of French fashion. And of course, whatever's sexy in France will quickly spread to the rest of Europe. Speaking of sexy, Veronica Lake was the iconic blonde hair that is the poster child of 1940s glamour. In the film I Wanted Wings, her beautiful blonde locks and peekaboo bangs gained much of the film's attention. Or, as Eddie so poetically words it, everyone went apeshit. Viewers of The King and I were shocked to find Yul Brynner with a shiny, shaved head. Western society often held the belief that baldness in men was a sign of misfortune, usually associated with some form of illness. Brenner's baldness, however, was a turning point in society's acceptance of bald men. English hairdresser Vidal Sassoon rejected the orthodox coiffures of the 1950s and instead drew inspiration from London's architecture, transforming women's hair into beautiful, and our industry standard, into beautifully cut geometric shapes, much like this one. Flappers were a generation of young women who wore short skirts, bobbed their hair, and listened to jazz. They were the rebels of the Roaring '20s, and women like Coco Chanel expressed their disconcern to be ladylike, with foul language, sexual freedom, and smoking. Civil rights activist and Black Panther leader Angela Davis was agitated with white supremacy and Jim Crow laws. The Afro became not only a personification of black beauty, but also a rebellion to the European standards of beauty. Her hair was a beautiful expression of heritage and empowerment. The counterculture of the 1960s was a conscious rejection of conservative America. Draped in recycled clothing, these hippies would grow their hair and beards to rebellious lengths, an outer reflection of their inner resistance to a social class that was defined by appearances. As this timeline shows, it is some of the most precious haircuts in history that have thrown out the expectations of other haircuts, those that don't justify their existence based on the opinions of other haircuts. As Lao Tzu once said, because one believes in oneself, one doesn't try to convince others. Because one is content with oneself, one doesn't need others' approval. And because one accepts oneself, the whole world will accept him or her. Now, let's face it, hair isn't going to change the world, but it rests on the shoulders of those who do. The next leap forward comes through people, movements, and ideas who impact our world. And their hair would just be the reflection. We tend to hold a lot of our dissatisfaction in the way we look, constantly trying to find something to fix and primping in the mirror. As a hairdresser, and as someone who grew up insecure, I can tell you, the less seriously you take your appearance and life, the more satisfied you'll be with it. I hope you take pride in who you are. You deserve to feel good about yourself. If no one told you tonight, then allow me to be the first. You're beautiful just the way you are. And your beauty goes much further than just skin deep. Thank you.